Hey, AP Eco students, hopefully everyone is staying safe and staying dry, but I don't want to miss out on an opportunity to learn and to not fall behind. So I'm making a little video to go over that PPF curve practice worksheet that we started in class yesterday. I've got that open up on the screen, and I also have a Google Drawings page open up so I can graph it on that page. So starting off, we just have an increasing PPF curve, and we're going to have them be all increasing on all the problems, and we're going to also have them between capital and consumer goods. Remember, capital goods produce consumer goods. So, like pizza ovens produce pizza. Businesses buy capital goods to make the consumer goods that we buy. So the first question that says, show and explain change to long run when a nation experiences a decline in birth rate. Well, remember, the things that change the PPF curve, things that shift the PPF curve are going to be changes, that's supposed to be a delta, changes in FOPs. FOPs. Remember, the FOPs are the factors of production: land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurship. If any of those increase, the PPF curve is going to shift to the right, further away from zero. So anything to the right is always going to be more. Anything to the left is always going to be less. So if any of those decrease, if you have less land, less labor, less capital, or less entrepreneurship, it's going to be a leftward shift. If you have any more of those things, it's going to be a rightward shift. So in this problem, when a nation experiences a decline in birth rate, less people being born means less laborers. And that's going to affect both the consumer and capital goods market, because if you don't make the pizza ovens, there will be less pizza. If there are less workers, there's less production. So it's going to be a leftward shift for both capital and consumer goods. And sorry that I'm not labeling my graph any more than this. It's just I'm doing this with a mouse, and it's not always the easiest. Okay, let's clear that out for the next one. I show and explain a change in long run when the interest rates decline. So we did this one in class on Friday, and this was basically an introduction to the idea of interest rates. Do I expect you to immediately think of like what interest rates do and how they affect the economy? No, but we're going to be dealing with this scenario for the rest of the semester. So you need to become familiar and introduced to what interest rates are and how they affect the economy. So right now, and from here on out, anytime that I say interest rates, I need you to think of taking out a loan. I need you to think of businesses taking out loans. Yes, you guys take out loans for a car, for a home, or to go to school, but businesses, producers, they take out loans daily and by the millions. So they're really going to be affected by a change of interest rates. You guys, not so much. You guys are not going to change really how many cars you buy or what kind of car you buy based off the interest rate. You typically, do it based on the price of the car, not necessarily the interest rate on that car. But businesses, on the other hand, they're going to be buying more or less pizza ovens completely dependent on the interest rate. So remember, interest rates are the price of a loan. So I'm actually going to type that over here. Interest rates are the price of a loan. And who takes out loans? Businesses. Businesses take out loans. So when you see interest rates, that's supposed to be my abbreviation, interest rate, you're going to think of business spending or business loans. Like 100% of the time. We did this and we said, well, if the interest rates decline, and the interest rate is the price of a loan, loans therefore are cheaper. Loans are cheaper to take out. You don't have to pay as much back if you don't have to pay a high interest rate. So if businesses find money or loans to be cheap, then they're more likely to take out more loans. Well, what are they going to buy with all this money? Things to go in their business, like pizza ovens. And guess what? With more pizza ovens, you know what you can produce? More pizza. So businesses in general are going to take out more loans to buy not just more goods, more capital goods. and more capital goods equals more consumer goods. So we have a rightward shift. And you know what? Let's scroll down to the bottom of the page where it's like the last question. And it says show/explain the change to nation's PPF when a nation experiences higher interest rates. It's the exact same scenario, but in reverse. If interest rates are higher, if banks are charging more for you to take out a loan, then you're probably not going to take out either as many loans, or you're not going to take out as big of a loan, which means you're going to have less money just in general. So if businesses have less money, you know what they can't do? They can't hire laborers. They can't expand their business. They can't buy new pizza ovens. And if that's the case, you can't be producing as much pizza. So not only will there be less capital goods being bought, there's going to be less consumer goods being made. And so there will be a leftward shift on that curve. So let me just give you a quick sketch. That would be a leftward shift. Look, we can't produce as much anymore. Something that we used to be able to produce, which is like on this PPF curve, now that point is impossible with the resources that we have. Hopefully you can't hear my dog barking in the background, but the door is closed. I told everyone to be quiet. That's all good. All right, let's go to the next question. Show/explain change in economic growth when the nation chooses to spend more on consumer goods. Okay, this is going to be an introduction to the idea of a movement that causes a shift. So in this scenario, you're thinking, okay, well, if a country is spending more on consumer goods, businesses are probably going to make more consumer goods. Like, let's say that, can I add words? I can add a little text box here. Let's say that this is capital goods. Oops. And then this is consumer goods right here. And let's say that we were somewhere, there we go. We were somewhere on the curve right here, somewhere in the middle. And if the country is, the nation chooses to spend more on consumer goods, I might hold off on the capital goods. I'm producing, let's see here. This is kind of where I am, ... This is where I'm producing, X amount of capital goods and X amount of consumer goods. Well, I probably want to produce more consumer goods if that's what's being bought. So I'm going to produce more consumer goods, maybe somewhere around here, which is closer to the consumer goods. There's more consumer goods, less capital goods though. ... doesn't really do dots on this one. So we're lowering our capital goods to make more consumer goods. And that's just a movement. That is just a movement from point, let's say, 1 to point 2. You can do A or B, 1 or 2, it doesn't matter. But let me think about the long run ramifications of such a choice. If a business, let's say a pizza place, if a business decides to just focus on making pizzas and they forget or they postpone making pizza ovens and they're just focusing on making product that consumers can buy, because that's what consumers are doing. They're buying and buying and buying. And so they neglect the making of pizza ovens. Instead, they focus on pizza making. What's going to happen 5, 10, 15, 20 years down the road? Well, eventually the pizza ovens that they had been using, they're going to wear, they're going to have tear, they're going to break down, they're going to depreciate, they'll start to rust, things don't work well anymore, and then you can't make pizza. Well, you're like, well, why don't they just pull one of the pizza ovens in the back? Well, remember they stopped making those because they were too busy focusing on making pizza? So if you're focusing too much on making consumer goods and you forget, or you stop making capital goods, eventually you won't be able to make those consumer goods anymore because you won't have any capital to make those things. So, imagine that, we were still back in steam engine times and factories that were running on, old school technology. And if they never changed their technology, we'd still be making cars and t-shirts or whatever with with non-automated processes, and you can't make very many. Imagine if cars were built by humans again, as opposed to like automated like robot arms. You probably are not going to be making cars fast enough. You're not going to make too many. You're not going to have too much production if you don't focus on the technological advances of how to make those things. And that's unfortunate because in the short run, it just looks like a choice. Your resources haven't changed. But if you focus on making more consumer goods, because that's what people want, in the long run, in a long amount of time, 10, 20, 30 years, however it is, that will shrink the economy. The entire curve will shift to the left. And you can now not make those pizzas anymore because your pizza oven that you had, you neglected, it broke, and you didn't have anything to replace it with. So then you're out of luck. So if you have a situation, let's go down to the last box on the left. This is kind of the opposite. If you have a situation where it's just the opposite, the opposite will happen. Show and explain a change in economic growth when the nation experiences an increase in research and development by corporations. I am kind of surprised by how many people don't know what research and development is. But you know what? Research and development is just researching and developing more technological advanced ways to produce the thing that you're making. So if there was like you can also call it R&D, like research and development, R&D. So, Amazon, Google, those businesses thrive on research and development. But businesses that haven't really changed the way they've been doing things in a long time, not so much. So imagine like a pizza oven. Imagine they did research and development where they could use some new technology, some new way of energy or something like that to make pizzas faster. And they researched it, they designed it, they come out with this brand new pizza oven, and they look at this amazing new capital that we have. We researched it, we designed it, we developed it, and here it is. And then that gets implemented in all the pizza places, that new technology. Well, it probably makes pizzas faster, probably makes more pizzas. And so if you were to, and that's just the opposite, you go from a point, let's say in the middle, doesn't matter, but you get closer to capital, like they are doing some research and development, and research and development will always lead to advances in technology. That's what research and development is. It advances technology. That's supposed to be ... dots, but it's not really working. You go from point 1 to point 2, just closer to capital goods. It doesn't matter if you're somewhere over here and you're getting closer. As long as you're getting closer, it doesn't matter where you were, as long as you're getting closer to capital goods. It doesn't matter where you put your points. In the long run, if you are, okay, you know what, I'm going to neglect the pizza making really quick. I'm going to really focus on developing a new pizza oven that makes things faster or at a lower cost or with less energy required, or like something that does it on its own. You don't even need any laborers to do it. You just maybe press a button and it does it all for you. That right there is going to increase your production possibilities at a pizza place. So imagine if businesses are doing this in all sectors of the economy, your PPF curve will shift. Not just for capital goods, but with more faster pizza ovens, you can make more pizza. So there's going to be more capital and more consumer goods if you do research and development. So this will always be the case. If you have a movement that is closer to capital goods, in the long run, it will shift out. And vice versa. If you have a movement away from capital goods and closer to consumer goods, in the long run, it's actually going to shrink the economy. That would be like going back into like the dark ages, as opposed to like the Industrial Revolution. The Industrial Revolution is an example of this problem right here. But going back to the dark ages, that would be like the one at the top, where they focus more on consumer goods. And we've got one last problem. And it is show and explain changes in the long run when a nation experiences a recession. Well, what are some characteristics of a recession? Okay, the economy is bad. It's not growing. A lot of people don't have a job. Maybe there's a stock market crash. All these things coincide with a recession. So, well, how do you show that on a graph? There's a squeaky toy in this house that's driving me insane. Anyway, they're in a recession. There's high unemployment, which means less people are working, which means labor is not being efficiently used. If there's like 100 million workers and you only have, 70 million of them working, you have, I said 70 and 100, you have 30 million people not employed, not working, having the skills, but they're just not doing it, which means you're a point inside the curve. Let's say you were at full employment before at 1, now you're somewhere in the curve 2. This right here is how you illustrate a recession. This is what a recession looks like. A recession. That is what it looks like on a graph. But notice how I say in the long run, because short run is a movement, long run is a shift. So in the short run, there's the movement right there. You go from 1 to 2, you're being wasteful with your resources because you have high unemployment. You don't have everyone working when you could. But in the long run, if you keep this up and the unemployment rate stays high for a long amount of time, eventually, you will not be able to produce as much, and it will be a leftward shift because it would be a change of labor completely. Like those people will stop looking for a job because no one's hiring. No one's been hiring for years. Kind of like the Great Depression. During the Great Depression, there's 25% unemployment, but they really say it was probably closer to 50 because 25% just is people still looking for a job. If you stop looking because you've given up hope, you're technically not unemployed anymore, which means you're not part of the labor force, which means there's less labor, which means it's a leftward shift of the PPF curve. Hopefully, I explained some things in a way that makes a little bit more sense than maybe it did yesterday. Hopefully, everyone's staying dry and staying safe and has the internet and electricity for the next couple of days. I hope to see you guys soon. Stay safe out there.